This is Zach from Caprock Family Farms, and I'm on the 806.
So how does it feel to be the only hemp grower here in Lubbock, and what motivated you to take on this pioneering role?
So to be the only hemp grower here in Lubbock, it's a little challenging, but at the same time, it's kind of nice because we have no competition around here. But being in the city that we're in, it is a little more of a conservative city, so uh, having to deal with the backlash from like churches and everything has been a huge challenge. But one of the main driving factors of us starting this was uh, we're from a farm family, so we've been farming for 30 years, and we've always diversified crops because farming's up and down, and the downs are really down, and the ups are really up. So getting a little bit of consistency was the main thing. So my grandfather's idea, my late grandfather, was to grow weed when it was legal. And coming from him, he's super conservative, so that was like kind of a shock. And when he passed away in 2013, the 2018 Farm Bill came out later, and we kind of decided, hey, let's take a hand at growing this hemp and see how it works. And that kind of led us down the path of growing indoors and growing THCA, hemp, and making products and doing all this other stuff. So that's kind of what led us down that road.
So how has the local community reacted to your hemp farming operations, and what unique challenges have you faced, or what support have you gained from being a hemp farmer?
So it's kind of weird. At the beginning, we had all negative. It was all negative. Like lost so many friends because they didn't want to be associated with us. And at that time, we were just doing CBD oil, and so it wasn't even the flower side or anything. And as time went on, everybody started using CBD, and then they started using THC, and over time, it's gotten a lot better, and the support has been amazing in the past, I would say, year and a half. But it's mainly in the activist space. People kind of look towards us to be a like a true test of this plant and how good it does for people, and it's not the bad thing that the government makes it out to be.
Have you encountered any issues with law enforcement regarding the legality of your hemp products, or how do you ensure clear communication or compliance?
So, with that question, we actually have invited the Lubbock Narcotics Agency out to or Narcotics Task Force out to our grow, and we have actually educated them because they asked us to educate them on what's legal and what's not, because they don't get their own education through, because all of the regulations are so complicated that we have to run them through that. And also another thing is we like to explain with our hands in front of us instead of tied behind our back. So we're always upfront with everything. So for example, when I'm making deliveries to places like smoke shop guys, I have a folder in my car that has all of our COAs, licensing, a letter from the chief of the Lubbock Narcotics Task Force that says like they do a hemp farm. If they smell or their eyes are red, it's because of the plants, and I smell today. So, but that's kind of how we've done that. But it's mainly been support. We do things the right way, and that makes their job a lot easier. So that's kind of with the narcotics side of everything.
So we recently had Proposition A up for election, right? It didn't pass. But many people don't know we actually have legal weed here in Lubbock already, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I'd like to touch on the Prop A thing real quick. So Prop A is a good step in the right direction, and it went to a vote, but not enough people voted, which it should have passed. And next time it happens, I encourage you to go out and vote. But with the legal weed, there is the technicality. There is the classification of marijuana is below point or above 0.3% D9, which is delta 9 THC, which is the psychoactive chemical in the plant. And so before that D9 comes in, whenever it's growing, there's this thing called THCA. THCA is the chemical before it's heated up and turned into D9, which gets you high. But the THCA is still technically classified as hemp, and so it is legal to sell in all 50 states.
So today I was looking up the news. I was trying to find something to report, and I seen that the DEA is maybe reclassifying THCA to where it doesn't get classified under the hemp and under the farm bill.
Yes. So with the Farm Bill it comes out every 7 years, and every 7 years they basically go over farming, and farming is about 5% of that, and that's what the hemp regulation is grouped under. The rest of the Farm Bill is welfare, which is why it takes so long. But they are trying to reclassify to where THC is going to be illegal instead of D9 THC. And so they'll be grouping all the THCs together. But along with them doing that, it has to go through the proper channels, which it was approved to go on to a vote in the Senate and the House of Representatives of the United States. And it'll probably be pushed back until after the election is kind of what we're thinking, because the farming side of the farm bill is already done. But like I mentioned earlier, the majority of it is welfare, and we all know how the government does that.
So being a hemp grower, what was your take on Prop A? I hear that hemp like competes with weed, right? And I don't know if they made it to be that way. But would it have been more profitable for you if weed was decriminalized and headed towards the legalization?
So it really wouldn't have affected any of the people selling THCA products, in my opinion. There's pros and cons to both sides. If it would have passed, then the street would be, we would have to compete with the street more. And, but it would also at the same time make people less scared to buy smokable hemp products, like THCA, for example. And on the other side, if it or like it didn't pass, then we still do not have to compete with the street, because it is illegal to buy marijuana on the street, but you can buy hemp in a store. But at the same time, the con there is that people are scared to buy it because they're scared to get caught with it and have to go through the legal battle of this is hemp, and because they could still get arrested and not charged, and going through that could hurt a lot of people's livelihood.
So I deal with a wide array of people. One day it might be somebody running for mayor, and one day it might be a thug from the hood. You know what I'm saying? And I was speaking to one, and he told me that he feels like the THCA thing is a trap. That in terms of it's legal for you guys to sell it, or it's legal for the retailers to sell it, but when the person goes and buys it, they hold all the liability of it once they leave the shop.
Yes, that is completely true. The basically what it is whenever we sell it as hemp, and then when you smoke it, it turns as it's burning, it turns into Delta 9. And so they could, like, if you're smoking a joint, for example, as it burns, everything past the burn point is marijuana, and everything else is hemp. So you do get passed on the liability for that, but it's an easier way to purchase it because most people smoke in their house. So it's an easier way to purchase it without getting caught in the act of purchasing it. And the possession is a completely different story.
So I was talking to one of my OGs, and he had an argument going. He felt like the THCA, or the smoke shop weed, as he calls it, is more potent than the street weed. Is it?
So it can be and it cannot be. So it's the same thing of saying, like, I'm going to go buy weed from the street, or I'm going to go to a dispensary in California that they have 30+% marijuana. You know, it's the same plant, and you can have higher potency stuff and lower potency stuff, and just depends on what you get. But it is the exact same plant.
Can you walk us through the registration process for becoming like a hemp grower?
Yeah, so it's actually a very tedious process. You have to go through the Texas Department of Agriculture. It's tda.gov is their website, and you have to apply to get a producer's license. And to do that, you have to go through an FBI background check, a fingerprinting, and then you have to. There's also a fee on top of that. That's $300, and every time you grow a certain strain, it's $100 on top of that. And so each strain you grow is $100, $100, $100, $100. And then if you have a different facility, you also have to register that, which is also another $100. So they basically fee you to death, but on the back end, it's a great thing to do, and I love it doing it. So going through those steps was an easy ask of me.
So earlier you guys said that you guys faced a lot of backlash for like growing the hemp, but things have changed. What do you think is the main objection now that you guys seen for the legalization of, or not legalization, but the decriminalization of marijuana, or even within this whole industry together?
I think that decriminalization is the first step towards legalization. And in Texas, there are already 4 cities that have decriminalized. And that is Dallas, Houston, Denton, and San Antonio. And so Lubbock being on that list was a huge step in the right direction towards legalization. But the big thing that held that back was not enough voters. And not a lot of people trust the government right now, but you still have to do your civil duty to get things done. And that was the biggest thing, was not enough people going out to vote for what we all want.
Do you think weed makes people apathetic? Because that's who didn't go out to vote, right?
Yes.
I think people stayed home and smoked more than they went out and voted on that day.
That's probably what happened, to be honest. And I agree that it does make them that. They'd like to celebrate the holiday instead of go and advocate for the holiday, which you should be able to do both. And to really get things done, we will have to do both, because the people that are voting are the people that are against it, because they do their civil duty all the time. But this is something that's really important that we have to get out and do.
How far do you think we are away from legalization? I hear that we're not more than 2 election cycles away from it, even here in Lubbock. But do you really see a time where like weed is legal in Texas?
I do. I think it'll be a lot further along than that. And I really think that it'll be federally legal before it is in Texas.
You think so?
I do think so. So I think it has to do with not who is in office, but who is in the House and the Senate of both the federal government and state government, because they are really the only ones that can make that decision or put that decision through. There could be an executive order, but then we're back in the same place when they leave office. Then there we go back to square one. So I think it's probably, I'd say I could agree with 2 election cycles away. That's probably a good time frame.
So when we were talking earlier, you told me that you guys are the 2nd largest indoor grower.
So we're actually the largest.
Largest in the state of Texas or the United States?
In the state of Texas.
State of Texas. Okay, right here in Lubbock, Texas.
Yes, right in Lubbock. We
Okay.
actually grow in the city limits.
Okay. And so what all do you grow?
So we grow hemp for CBD and then hemp for THCA. So we grow high CBD hemp and high THCA hemp. We also grow cotton peanuts and everything else like that outside in our actual farm.
Lubbock has the nickname of the hub. And one of the reasons why they say it's the hub is because for agriculture, right?
So I would say yes and no. So basically why it's the hub city is all the little towns around it come here to get everything. So it's the hub of West Texas.
So being a citizen of Lubbock, watching the churches position themselves against Prop A, some people feel like maybe they should lose their 5031 status, or that they were in the wrong position to do that. What was your take on just that situation, just looking at it as a citizen?
As a citizen, I think that they did the wrong thing, and they should not have made a political stance as a nonprofit, because that's what all churches are. But I also go to church every Sunday, so I think that just any politics and religion should never mix. So I think that them taking that stance was wrong, but I see why they did it.
So on a packet, when I get it like a packet from the smoke shop, it says a certain amount of percentage of Delta 9 or something like that, but then it will say like 0.3% of THC or something like that. But you can still fail a drug test.
Yes.
Like what do all those numbers mean?
So basically, when you're talking about total THC, that's all of them in there. So there are like 180 different types of THC in the plant. The three big ones are THCA, Delta 9, and Delta 8. Delta 8 is the smaller one. It's mainly those two. So THCA and D9. And so as long the total THC can be above zero point 0.3 as a product, and the D9 has to be below zero point 0.3. But all THCs are what make you fail a drug test. That's what it's looking for. So that's how it goes.
Why do you think the word Delta has a bad stigma right now?
I would say because of Delta 8. So Delta 8 was the very first THC product that was available in smoke shops to legally buy in a non-legal state. And it was a lot of it for Delta 8 is mainly synthesized to get that yield. So it's not a pure natural chemical, unlike Delta 9. And so I think that just the D8, Delta 8 is kind of put a bad rap on Delta 9 when Delta 9 gummies started coming out. And so Delta is just, I think it was mainly this huge D8 boom that kind of happened and people manufacturing in the wrong ways to make it unhealthy for everybody taking it.
So CBD had a explosive boom, and now I hear nobody talking about it anymore.
Yeah.
Where do you see that? Where do you see the CBD industry, or even just that? I don't know. It's not a strain, but where do you see that product going from here?
So I think that CBD is going to go more of a medicinal route than it had been in the past. Because in the past, everybody carried it and everybody sold it and everybody bought it, and it was mainly although it was available and as a placeholder for cannabis and or legal cannabis. And now I think it's going more the medical route. So we're seeing a lot more doctors implement it into their prescriptions and everything, and also uh, outdoor CBD for extraction. That's how you get all the cannabinoids that are in these products. So that will always be the case. There'll always be some form of market growing hemp outside for CBD for extraction.
Okay. When weed does become legal, would that lead to an explosion of farms, like growers out here, or would it have to be grown from like outside the state? I don't really know how the process would go.
So usually they give in all the legal states that have gone legal, they have given them a 9-month leeway to get plants in the ground, plants grown, products made before launch date. So the manufacturers have been able to get a head start before the market starts. And so I think that there will be an explosion of growers, but quality growers, no. It took us about a year and a half to actually learn how to grow quality hemp or cannabis, that the cannabis plant. And so there's going to be a learning curve for people who are trying to make a quick buck, but you'll see a lot of companies from out of state move here and try to take over this market, like Cookies and everybody else like that, big multi-state operations. And that'll be the big thing. There's not going to be a lot of craft growers. It'll be mainly big, huge conglomerations.
So the thing that kind of won me over was, I don't know, I feel like the algorithm just works sometimes, but I seen a video where Berna said, if the government would let me just tell people that this was legal weed I'm sending through the mail, not legal weed, but this is real weed I'm sending through the mail, this THC thing would take off.
Yes, but it would, but we can't say that, sadly. But it's still hemp, and it still works the same way as if you go to Colorado and buy that.